All right, let's take a closer look at this etude. So Starlight explores a number of the different techniques and rhythmic devices that we learned in the first part of this course. If you look at the first 8 measures of this song, what we're really doing is practicing doing the chord jabs on different places of the beat, different places of the measure, on different places of the beat, on the and right on the downbeat, while the melody note is sustained. So this is a great technical exercise for both hands. It gives you, an exercise in independence for the right hand, allowing freedom between the claw and the thumb. And it also provides an incredible exercise and a great workout for the fingers of the left hand. So if we just break this down, take a look at it. In the first measure, through the third measure, the chord jabs are happening on the and of 2 and right on 4. So if we're playing it in time or thinking about it, just singing it, it's 1, 2, and 3, 4, 1, 2, and 3, 4. Almost like a little backwards Charleston, or kind of a variation on the Charleston rhythm. Now then, in measure 4, we have the chord jabs on the and of 1 and the and of 2. So it happens, it sounds like it happens, a lot quicker in the measure. So it's now 1 and 2 and 3, 4. Then in measures 5 and 6, we have a variation on that where the chord jabs are on the and of 1, but then right on the downbeat of 3. Okay, right on the third beat. So you have 3 rhythmic variations in the first 6 bars, and that alone will be a great workout that will provide you the independence that you need for the right hand. Now, if we're looking at the left hand, pretty much all of these melody notes are going to be fingered with a pinky. So we start off with 2 notes. So really, it's a study in holding that pinky down while you're bouncing the other 3 fingers. And again, this is stemmed from that early exercise that we checked out in the course on sustained notes and the finger exchange. So doing those exercises will really give you the dexterity and the independence to be able to play these articulations effectively. Now, if we look on measure 5, for example, now we're on the first fret. So this is an interesting technique where you're using your first finger to bar. But in a sense, what you're doing is, there's the bar, right? It's pretty much straight, and you're pressing down all the strings. And then what you're actually going to be pressing down on the B string, which is the melody note, with somewhere around here, this part of the index finger. So part of this technique is relaxing the top of your finger. That's all you're doing. If you just look at the movement, you've got the finger standing straight up, and then you just bend it backwards. So on the guitar, that sounds like this. So notice now the C note is ringing, but the others are held off. So it's a little tricky at first, but basically you're holding that finger down and you're just releasing pressure with the top part of your finger. And that's how you'll be able to continue doing those short chord jabs. So again, from the F13, we have this. Then we go into the B flat 7, flat 9. So the first 6 bars alone will give you quite a workout for both hands. All right, as we move along from that, we continue that concept with some chord jabs on the and of 1 and 2, sustaining this time in measure 8 for the A flat 13. And then you leave it held down to sustain the chord. And then okay? And then we just go through some different block chord voicings. And then moving down to measure 13, it's the same type of idea where the melody note, if you look at the notation, we have dotted half notes. So that's 3 beats you want to sustain that melody note. And that creates a little conversation. You have the melody note, the top note in the voicing ringing out, ba. Then you have these little quick chord jabs, and then a little bass line moving in the bottom. So it's kind of like 3 parts happening at once. Okay? Now we move into the bridge in measure 17, and now we're going to start using some single note lines. So again, get that thumb ready to go to mute some of those lines out. I'm going to play them slowly. So in the second measure there of the bridge, which is measure 18, now when we hold on a note from our single note line, we can grab a chord. And generally speaking, I'll grab those chords with the thumb, index, and middle finger. So measure 17 and 18 slowly are. And that way the fingers are working together, and the thumb is serving a dual purpose of muting the strings when you're playing single note lines, and then grabbing the lower notes of the chord when you want to play a chord voicing to support that melody. That same idea continues throughout the bridge in the next 6 bars. And we finish off with a little line in B flat major 7. And then starting in measure 25, we're going to finish this off using a walking 4 bass with some of our chord jabs. And that's exactly the same thing that we've been checking out in all of these little technical warm-ups. So we have this. Now notice here in measure 28, we're going to employ one of our line cliches that we used earlier. This is the root 6 dominant 7 line cliche that we saw in an earlier example. That's all it is. Slight variation on that, but it's basically the same thing that we checked out earlier. Then in 29, we're gonna start a figure that will repeat in measure 30. So it's just replication. And then we'll end it with a real cliche ending. And then just to get the sharp 11 in there, we'll use all 5 fingers, the thumb and the 4 fingers together to play this nice voicing. And that's really nice because we're going to use, this is the Neapolitan chord that we checked out, the flat 2, a half step above the tonic. And then we're taking that top note in the voicing, the F sharp, and it's kind of like splitting that in half by resolving it to an F and an E. Sounds a little funky when you play it by itself, but in the context of the chord, it sounds really nice. A little cluster there. Sorry. Be careful not to do that. Just grab, practice plucking the chord so that all the notes are the same volume.